The Boulders Mall and Ndebele activist Thando Mahlangu battle continues. Mahlangu says the discrimination he experienced at the Midrand mall wasn't for the first time. Now, he says he was previously denied access to the Gautrain. Mahlangu's been tabling evidence at the CRL Rights Commission, which is investigating the incident. To discuss this further, we're joined by the Commission's David Mosoma. Thank you for your time. We appreciate it. So the CRL Act 19 of 2002 provides for investigation and conflict resolution on any issue concerning the rights of cultural, religious and linguistic communities. We all saw that video of Thando Mahlangu being asked to leave the mall because of his traditional attire. It looks like a clear infringement of rights.
In fact, it's more than just an individual rights. It is community rights, because Thando Mahlangu is a representative of a culture which is practiced by the Ndebele community. So he is merely a representative of that culture. To trivialize it, to undermine it, and to ridicule it, that it means actually ridiculing the entire cultural practices of the Ndebele people, which is why we as a commission, in terms of Section 31 of the Constitution, no person belonging to a cultural, religious and linguistic communities can be barred from participating and enjoying the rights of that particular community. This is the way in which we view it. More importantly is that the Commission is in the business of protecting and promoting the cultural rights of communities, for them to enjoy the cultural life of their choice without any inhibition or any denial of that practice.
Yeah.
Hence, we have invited Mr. Mahlangu to give us the background as to what actually happened, which he gracefully narrated the background, which I think you have in your summary at the beginning of this interview. You actually focused on it, that he went to the Boulders to a particular shop called Clicks to buy certain products there. And as he was going to that shop, he saw that he realized that he was being followed by security people. When he entered the shop, the security people entered there. And of course, he even asked one of them if he's working there for assistance, which he indicated he was not. And of course, after that, when he was asked to leave, he then said, call your manager so that we can talk. So the manager was called in, which was Mr. Maponyane. And when Mr. Maponyane arrived, he greeted him in Setswana, saying, Ashe, or something like that. And the response was in English. For him, the response in English was an indication that this was a battle of war, no longer one of talking about the importance and the centrality of culture in our everyday life.
Yeah. So, of course, Thando Mahlangu says the discrimination he experienced at Boulders Mall wasn't the first time. Why do you reckon this is happening in 2021 in a democratic South Africa? What needs to change?
In fact, this is the question we as a commission are asking ourselves. Understanding that the commission's task as an object is to educate, to conscientize, to make people aware, and asking ourselves to what extent since 1994 to date, people are not conscious about the diversity of South Africa's culture, especially in the business environment like that. In a business, what you're concerned about is your profit margin. You're not concerned about how people are wearing. If you are concerned about the nudity of people, you call the police. And the police are well placed to check whether this person is actually violating the public code. But not each and every individual to become a judge of culture. So culture is meant to be appreciated. Culture is meant to be embraced, and culture is meant to be an instrument that defines the identity of people. So it is understanding the milieu and the totality of our lives together, which is very critical if we're to live and make sure that we promote social cohesion and nation building in our country.
Yeah. So you'll, of course, talk to all of the people involved in this matter, including the mall manager who kicked Mr. Mahlangu out, right?
We had an opportunity to speak to Mr. Mahlangu only. Of course, the idea in terms of the plan in the program was that the redefined property management will also be in attendance at 1 o'clock. Just before we called them in, we received a letter from their lawyers indicating that the management of the company is scattered all over the country. So it was at short notice, but they're prepared to cooperate with the commission. And we are waiting that next week we will likely to deal with this, or a week after next, because of the long Easter holidays.
So clearly there was an infringement of rights given what you're saying. What action can you take as the Commission?
Well, it's not a punitive action. We want them to comply. We want each and every business in our country, each and every space in our country, to acknowledge the fact that we are a multicultural country, and that this is the tapestry and is the richness of this multiplicity of culture which makes us a great nation. And this is very, very important. But the outcome of that cannot be spelled now, because we want to listen on the other side of the story, out of which we will then be able to make a recommendation in terms of what that company must do in terms of restitution, if any, at all. But what really pleased us was the fact that when Mahlangu was asked whether he forgives Ms. Mapunyane, he said if he was asked a day before or 2 days after that, he would have said no. But now, after consulting broadly, it has come to his understanding that Mr. Mapunyane should not have been suspended in the first place. And he wants Mr. Mapunyane to return back to the company, and he wants Mr. Mapunyane to undergo cultural training together with his bosses. And which I felt it was a very climax of our conversation, because indeed we're in the business of building this country together.
Thank you so much for your time and your insight. We appreciate it. David Musoma from the CRL Rights Commission. Now,